Michael O'Connor. Yep.
So, one rule we do have, normally our board is made of 3 people. And in case of a tie, okay, Kyle happened, one or two of us here, the case will be denied. So is that okay with you guys?
So that leaves it up to you if you want to continue with that or, or request a continuance to the next hearing. Still got a few minutes probably before I read in exhibits. Take another minute maybe to swear in people here on behalf of the applicant and Mr. Knight, who will offer testimony as well. So, if he, hopefully he does show up. Mr. Hobbs said that he was going to show up, but, otherwise, if you want to continue, then we can continue with 2, and, if it is a result and it's split, then fine, it is denied, then, okay.
One other thing, this is a recorded session, so this will, again, we actually use your microphone, so that.
Here he is.
Mr. Hobbs, here we go. Okay,
Of course, I should have known once we would start saying that. Here is Mr. Hobbs.
Yes.
And just as a reminder, everybody's microphones are turned on. We're speaking in the microphones.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Which is very good because when you watch it sometime, and especially for the applicant witnesses, make sure that you do speak into it, because I could hear you and then some of the board members. And Mr. Phipps, make sure too you speak into it, because from experience of last month, I could hear certain board members, sometimes you weren't, and sometimes the applicants weren't, and it's very important that, since it is being recorded and all that,
Always thought my voice.
that the microphones are on and all that, so.
So Mr. Hobbs has joined us, the fellow board member. So, ready to start?
Yeah, let me read in exhibits, and then we'll swear in, the witnesses. But for this application 2574, the address is 2501 Market Street. The exhibits are B1, proof of publication, Patriot News, March 10 and March 17, 2024. B2 is a letter dated March 11, 2024, sent from Mr. Knight to the applicant notifying of the hearing. B3 is a hearing notice posted on the property. B4 are applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing for tonight's hearing that's sent to required neighbors. B5 is the application. B6 are the plans for the proposal, and that is, there's 3 pages of plans. B7 is the letter of authorization from the School District of Harrisburg Chief of Operations regarding Casey Sign Company being able to pursue the zoning relief. B8 is a deed establishing standing to pursue the zoning relief. B9 is the Planning Bureau case report, and B10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So we have B1 through B10. And then.
So, okay, so need Mr. Knight to raise his hand. He's sworn in. Solemnly swear that all the evidence you give is true statement?
I do.
Thank you. Back to the floor.
Okay, so the application before the board is a proposal to install a new internally illuminated freestanding sign at 2501 Market Street, which will increase non-conforming aspects of the existing signage related to height from 6 feet to 8.3 feet and size from 24 square feet to 40 square feet. So again, this is a replacement of an existing non-conforming sign. The applicant is seeking to make it a little bit larger to be able to convey more information and information more clearly to the general public. The 4 cases before the board today are all involving the same applicant and essentially the same signage. And so the applicant is seeking not only to make larger sign that's more visible and legible to the general public, but also to have signage be consistent across all of their properties. And so it's this particular case is fairly straightforward. Again, it's a special exception because it's increasing non-conforming aspects of the existing signage. With that being said, the Planning Commission recommends by a unanimous vote that the Harrisburg Zoning Hearing Board approve the request with the following conditions. Any electronic messages displayed on the proposed sign will conform to the regulations in section 7-32511 of the zoning code regarding light and glare and prohibited electronically changing messages. The Planning Commission recommends by unanimous vote that the Harrisburg Zoning Hearing Board approve the request for the following reasons. The applicant has met their burden of proof demonstrating the special exception request should be approved by the Zoning Hearing Board. Given the context of the installation site with the freestanding sign located within a large front lawn area along Market Street, it can be argued that a larger sign is necessary to be visible and legible to passersby, allowing drivers to focus more on the road and thus improving safety. And finally, the proposed sign will be able to convey more information about educational and community programs, activities, and services, and enhance communication between the school district and the general public.
Thank you. Each you are the two applicants, okay?
Yes.
Need you to raise your name, address, we represent, raise your hand to be sworn in. You swear that the information that you're going to present is true representation of facts?
I do.
Thank you. And state your name.
John Reedy, I'm the Chief of Operations for the Harrisburg School District.
Okay.
And Greg Feld, I'm with KC Sign Company, working on the signs for the Harrisburg School District.
Okay. So now it's time for you to plead your case. Okay, so you basically,
I'll go first.
proposing.
Appreciate your time today. A couple of initiatives that we have in the district is, one, to certainly improve operations and the aesthetics of what we have out in front of many of our buildings. And these signs would enhance and improve what's there right now. And in some cases, there's nothing there right now. But the big part and the real part that we want to get through with these signs is really an improvement of communication to the families within the Harrisburg School District. We try all means of communication, and some of them are successful, some of them are not, but the more things that we do to get information to our students and our families, the better it is for the community and for those families. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready?
Then I can speak about the signs. In this case, we have an existing non-conforming sign in place. It is right up there. As you can see, it's pretty short and small. So the school district would like to be able to make it a little larger, and because of the setback too, where this existing sign is, it's about 50 feet from the curb. It's set back there, and we'd like to just keep it in the same spot so nothing much changes in the footprint. Everything looks more or less the same. We don't want to bring it too much closer to the road. There are residences across the street, so we like it set back in the front yard. That way that it's more visible for the drivers going up and down Market Street. And by increasing the size of the LED board there now, it's a really old one. It has 2 lines, so it's very hard to read from the road. And the information to get a message across on a board that small, you'd have to have it scroll or change. So what we're trying to avoid is doing that. By having a larger board, you can have one static message on there with all the information needed for a school activity or educational service, something that's going on with the community and the school district. So that shows where the sign, approximately where the sign is, where the A is on there, and we're just replacing same location. And like to make it a little taller too, to increase a little bit of visibility from the road. And then the LED message board. The top cabinet, by the way, that has Harrisburg School District and the John Harris campus on that, that is not LED. It's not a changeable message board. That sign is a static cabinet. It's an illuminated cabinet, interior illumination. And it'll be opaque vinyl on top of that, so the lettering light, the John Harris campus, that is masked out backwards, so John Harris campus will light up there. And on the top, you have the logo and the name, Harrisburg High School, and that'll be an illuminated cabinet there. The size of that one is 24 inches tall, and the LED message board is 3 feet tall. Both are 8 feet wide.
Thank you. We normally don't do this, but I'm going to ask you, Mr. Grove, does the city have any questions from the solicitor's office?
No?
Okay, I know we don't do this, but
Yep.
yes, I'd like to make sure. So now, we have no public people in, so I'll turn to the board. You have any questions? Mr. Hobbs?
No questions.
This is a first, no questions. Okay. I'd like to make a recommendation to approve this.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the signage, placement of the signage.
And, hold on,
Oh, I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay. No, you were fine. A motion to approve the special exception application for the signage with the condition set forth in the, by the planning commission in their in the resolution of the planning commission.
Okay, so I made the motion to, oh boy.
You can say, just say you
Ditto,
adopt
right?
that motion.
Okay, I basically did that motion, and you seconded?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
let's go with the second case.
We'll be right back.
Okay. Michael, start with the second case.
Okay, then for the second one, it's application 2575 1313 Monroe Street. Same applicant involved, and as Mr. Knight explained in the prior application, it's a signage request for zoning relief pertaining to signage. I will read in exhibits, which will be similar, so I'm just going to really kind of go through them a little quick. So B1 is the proof of publication, March 10, March 17, 2024. B2 is a letter sent from the planning director to the applicant notifying of the hearing. B3 is the hearing notice posted on the property. B4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. B5 is the application. B6, the plans for the proposal. There are 4 pages. B7 is the letter of authorization from the School District of Harrisburg authorizing KC Sign Company to be here tonight and pursue the zoning relief. B8, deed, or the deed establishing standing to pursue the zoning relief. B9, Planning Bureau case report. B10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So those are the exhibits. And also, right, everybody who will be testifying was sworn in at the prior hearing. Is that okay, that everybody understands they're under oath for this application as well, everybody? Yes?
Yep.
Yes, okay, everybody that's going to be testifying answered in the affirmative.
Mr. Knight?
Yes, so case number 2575 for 1313 Monroe Street, which is the Downey Elementary School, involves a proposal to install a new internally illuminated wall sign, which requires relief from 2 aspects of the signage regulations regarding size and illumination. The proposal requires approval of 2 variances for a sign larger than permitted by right, which is 48 feet proposed, 48 square feet proposed, and 10 square feet permitted by right, and then an internally illuminated sign, which is not permitted by right in the INS district. So similar to the previous case. Again, the applicant is proposing a similarly sized sign, providing similar messaging, and again, the intention is to have consistent signage across all their properties. In this case, both the sign and the site are a bit different. The sign itself is a wall sign as opposed to a freestanding sign, and there is no existing wall sign, which it is replacing. And the property itself is located in the AE 100-year floodplain. So something like the installation of a freestanding sign would be complicated by that designation. And so in this case, the proposal is reasonable because they cannot have it out near the street. It needs to be slightly larger to be more visible to the public and to passersby. And it's going to be located right to the left of their main entrance off of Monroe Street. With all that being said, the Planning Commission recommends by unanimous vote that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request with the following conditions. Any electronic messages displayed on the proposed sign will conform to the regulations in section 7-325 Point 11 of the zoning code regarding light and glare and prohibited electronically changing messages, and that'll be a consistent condition across all four of these cases. The Planning Commission recommends by a unanimous vote that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request for the following reasons. The context of the installation site, with the wall sign facing the rear of a large commercial building without windows, mitigates any potential impacts on the surrounding community due to the internal illumination. The proposed sign will be able to convey more information about educational and community programs, activities, and services, and enhance communication between the school district and the general public. Given the configuration of the site, with no available frontage along Monroe Street on which to install a freestanding sign more visible to the public, and the floodplain designation of the property, a wall sign setback from the street is a more reasonable alternative to a freestanding sign. And finally, the proposal is similar in size to wall signage at other commercial and industrial properties in the surrounding neighborhood, and particularly along Cameron Street and Hurst Street. To the Planning Bureau's knowledge, these have not created adverse impacts for other properties. Thus, it is reasonable to assume that there will be negligible impacts on the surrounding properties and neighborhood.
Thank you for your synopsis and recap. Again, gentlemen, you have been sworn in already, so you have any you want to add to this proposal?
Mr. Knight covered everything, but just to show, the sign is the same layout, the same type of sign as the freestanding signs, the ground signs. And as was stated, this one's a little larger because it is a wall sign, and it's set back more. There's the entranceway here for the parking and some student drop-off, and there's a playground here, a little grass strip here, so we didn't want to put a freestanding sign or a ground sign out there. And it's not facing any residential uses or houses, so it's not going to affect anybody detrimentally in that respect. So it'll just provide information right there at the entrance when people are bringing students to school.
And again, the intent is to create a professional sign out front to communicate to the community, to the students, to show recognition, to show all different types of information that's needed and important to the community. I do want to point out something I didn't say previously, is that we actually have 2 signs up already. We have one at Foos and we have one at Camp Curtin, same style, and I think they both look excellent, and they're meeting exactly what we wanted to do in terms of communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Grove, any information? Any city's position?
No questions.
Questions? Okay, so I'll start again to my left. Right.
No question.
Okay. Mr. Hobbs?
No questions.
Okay. And likely me? No questions. Okay. So, Mike, let's see if I get this right this time.
Right, just, all right, so, it'll be a motion to approve the application for 2575 for the dimensional variances stated therein, with the conditions stated in the resolution of the Planning Commission.
Okay.
So that is
That's the motion. Okay,
Mr. Phipps's motion, okay.
That's my motion. Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Gray's second. Any questions? I guess gas person on here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, let's go with the third case.
Okay, so the third case is application 2576301 Hale Avenue. Same applicant, same type of request for dimensional variances for signage on the property. I'm going to read in there almost exact exhibits. The case report and the resolution are a little different than some of the other ones. But so B1, proof of publication. B2 is a letter sent from Mr. Knight to the applicant notifying of the hearing. B3 is a notice posted on the property. B4 is applicant's notification letter, certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. B5 is the application. B6 are the plans for the proposal, 4 pages. B7 is a letter of authorization from School District of Harrisburg authorizing KC Sign Company to be here tonight to pursue the zoning relief. B8, the deed establishing standing to pursue the zoning relief. B9, Planning Bureau case report. And B10, City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. As I mentioned, same parties involved, and Mr. Knight is also here. Everybody was sworn in for the prior application, so everybody's under the understanding you're still under oath, testify to the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everybody answered in the affirmative. Mr. Knight, the question I have, B9 is the Planning Bureau case report. Is that something you prepare?
That is correct.
Okay. And that will be submitted into the record. Do you essentially adopt that too as your testimony?
I do.
Okay. Is there anything else then unique about this one or anything else you want to explain with regard to this application or any difference or anything like that? I see the signage, it seems to be a little different size, that type of thing. But it is an internally illuminated one, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, each of these is slightly different in terms of either the zoning relief necessary, the type of signage, or the existing conditions, I guess. So this is very similar to the previous two, except in this case, there is no existing freestanding sign, so it's a new freestanding sign. Otherwise, it might have fallen under the special exception like 2501 Market Street. In this case, they're installing a new internally illuminated freestanding sign requiring variances for relief from the size, 32 square feet proposed versus 8 square feet permitted by right. The height, 7.3 feet tall versus 4 feet permitted by right, and an internally illuminated sign. Effectively, a lot of the same justifications are there. Again, the consistency of the signage. The sign will be located perpendicular to the street, so it will be up and down the street and not having any glare across the street to the residences on the west side of Hale Street. And so a lot of the same issues and justifications are present in this case as were present in the last case. And so the Planning Commission recommended that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request for the following with the following conditions, and that includes being in conformance with Section 7-32511, similar to the other two cases, and then the justification or the Zoning Hearing Board. The Planning Commission recommended that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request for the following reasons. The signage is consistent with the size, height, and illumination of existing signage at or proposed for other facilities owned by the Harrisburg School District, ensuring consistency in messaging across all of its properties. The signage will be situated to face north and southbound traffic on Hale Avenue and in a configuration that minimizes or eliminates any potential impacts on adjacent residential properties. And finally, the property currently features no exterior signage, which allows the school district to convey information to the general public, parents, and children. The proposed sign will be able to convey more information about educational and community programs, activities, and services, and enhance communication between the school district and the general public.
Thank you. Guess you can show me what the sign, or you have a copy of what the sign looks like?
Yes, this is the sign from Marshall Middle School. And as stated, it's similar look, similar layout as all the other signs. This one is, actually the size of this one, it was mentioned, the LED board is a little smaller than the other ones. And we tweaked it down. This one's a little closer to the road, so we didn't feel like we needed to go much bigger to get the message across. And this size is the same as the two that were permits were issued for. So this is in keeping with the Foo School and Camp Curtin. That's the size and the layout for those. So that's what we're going for on this one.
Okay. And Mr. Knight, this request is just a sizing dimension.
And an internal illumination. Yep.
Okay. Mr. Burrow, no?
No questions from the city.
Thank you. Okay. We swap this time. Okay.
No questions.
That's correct.
I have one question. The direction of the sign, was there a reason that it's not towards the street, towards Hill Street? Because this looks like it's
It's perpendicular to
Perpendicular.
Hale. So traffic going on both directions on Hale will be able to read it. So it's not facing directly, it won't be facing the residential zone across from it, it'll be facing perpendicular. So traffic can see it both ways. The photo, you can see the road over here.
yeah.
The road's a little far away in the photo to really tell on that, but it will be perpendicular. All the other signs are also perpendicularly oriented to the street. so that it faces traffic from both directions, except the wall sign, of course.
Okay. No questions. So,
Okay, so then you make a motion to approve application 2576, subject to the condition outlined in the resolution of the Planning Commission. So that's,
Yeah.
Mr. Phipps, that's your
my
motion?
Motion, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hobbs seconds. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Let's go on to the last one.
All right, so we're on the last one, is 2577, 1201 North Sixth Street. Same applicant involved in this one. So let me read quickly the exhibits into the record for this application. B1 is a proof of publication. B2 is letter sent to applicant notifying of the hearing. B3, hearing notice posted on the property. B4, the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. B5 is the application. B6 are the plans for the proposal. B7 is the letter of authorization from the School District of Harrisburg. B8, the deed establishing standing to pursue the zoning relief. B9, Planning Bureau case report. And B10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. We have the same, applicant, the same witnesses and all that stuff. So, Mr. Knight, Mr. Feld, and Mr. Reedy, is that right?
That's correct.
You've been under oath for the 3 prior applications. And you will still be under oath, you agree to still be under oath for this last application, 2577?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everybody answered in the affirmative. And once again, Mr. Knight, obviously B9 is that Planning Bureau case report. Is that something that you prepared in this matter too?
I did.
Okay, and is that something you adopt as your testimony too for this application?
I do.
Okay. And why don't you explain any differences or anything unique about this application that the board members should also know and hear about?
Sure. So the main differences in this final application, case 2577, involve both the height of the proposed sign as well as the Planning Bureau's recommendation with respect to conditions. So this proposal involves the installation of a new internally illuminated freestanding sign where one does not currently exist in front of the Ben Franklin School. The proposal requires approval of 3 variances for a sign larger than permitted by right, 30 square feet as opposed to 8 square feet, and a sign taller than permitted by right, 11.3 square feet versus 4 feet. So that's a significant difference between this and the previous signs proposed, and then an internally illuminated sign as well. With respect to the Planning Bureau's recommendations, which were adopted by the Planning Commission and agreed to by the applicant at the Planning Commission meeting, we recommended that the proposed sign be relocated to the southern end of the property frontage near the vehicular ingress point off of North 6th Street, and this is for several reasons. One involves traffic circulation. Having a sign right at the vehicular egress point there might block view of drivers as they're exiting the property, as opposed to driving onto the property. You wouldn't have to necessarily worry about pedestrians as much. Two, being that there's a light there, it's a bit more of a visually complex location where it was initially proposed. 3, it's right across from the Broad Street Market, the initial location, and so we were concerned that there might be historic adverse impacts on historic resources. And finally, the Harrisburg Housing Authority is, I believe, intending on building a new apartment building just to the north of this property, and so where the signage was potentially located would be potentially shining into to be constructed apartment units. And so we felt that relocating this to the south side, where you have an institutional use on the to the south of this subject property would reduce the adverse impacts on all of those issues above. And so with that being said, the Planning Commission recommends that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request with the following conditions. The applicant will relocate the proposed sign to the southern end of the property frontage along North 6th Street near the vehicular entry point. The proposed location is directly across the street from the Broad Street Market, and an internally illuminated sign over 11 feet in height would create adverse impacts on a property both located in a municipal historic district and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Bureau also notes that the property to the north is intended to be developed as a multifamily dwelling, while the property to the south is an institutional use active primarily during the daytime. 2, if the alternative location results in the proposed sign encroaching into the 5-foot setback specified in section 7-32510B1 of the zoning code, the applicant shall be granted relief for that location. And the reason we included that condition was there are a couple different places where the sign might be relocated, some that may be in setback, some that may not, and we want the applicants to have a little bit of flexibility in terms of where exactly this is located. And then finally, any electronic messages will be in conformance with section 7-325.11, which was a consistent condition across all of the other cases. The Planning Commission recommends that the Zoning Hearing Board approve the request for the following reasons. The site is differentiated from the signage submitted for other properties owned by the applicant, given that it is in a more active and visually complex environment. More conspicuous signage will help identify the property and convey information more quickly, helping drivers maintain focus on the road conditions. The signage is consistent with the size, height, and illumination of signage existing at or proposed for other facilities owned by the Harrisburg School District, ensuring consistency in messaging across all of its properties. The signage will be situated to face north and southbound traffic on North 6th Street, and thus will minimize any potential impacts on adjacent residential properties to the west of North 6th Street. And finally, the property currently features no exterior signage, which allows the school district to convey information to the general public, parents, and children. The proposed sign will be able to convey more information about educational and community programs, activities, and services, and enhance communication between the school district and the general public.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the communication that we received from Mr. Knight, and the district felt that those recommendations were very reasonable. So we quickly got with KC Sign. They updated their renditions and were able to change the location in the sign and a little bit on the size, and that's what you see here today.
And the configuration of the sign is the same. This one is narrower than the other ones. They were 8 feet, this is 6 feet, because we're dealing with a tighter space there, so we wanted to bring it in for that reason. And then the height, it's in an area on the southern side of the frontage, and there's a grass strip there in front of the parking lot that it starts at 4 feet and broadens to 10 feet as it gets closer to the fence. So we're going to situate it more or less in the middle there, where it's like 8 feet or so, and that'll give us room to stay on, for the leading edge of the sign, to stay within the property line and not overhang the sidewalk, so it'll all be within the school property.
Start to my left again, Chris. Mr. Hobbs?
No questions.
Let me just ask, so it has been relocated, correct? Or at least you have a location, a planned location for the sign. My concern is within kind of the setback, kind of avoiding any necessity to file something if need be. But is that then really number 2, that condition within the 5 feet setback, is that the relocation, is that within that?
Within the 5-foot setback?
Yeah.
Within this grassy area, yes, that will encroach within the 5-foot setback. It'll be within the property line. Within the property. The property line is about, according to the site plan, looks to be where the sidewalk is.
I do have a question for a change. Where the sign is being placed, and this is perpendicular to 6th Street, it's next to a parking spot, and this is almost a disaster type question. Sometimes after a heavy rain, people hit the curb and they go over the curb. Okay, what's the chances of having this sign taken out? If somebody misses the curb trying to park, Can they back into it? I see the parking slots there. Okay.
It's funny, because we were just discussing that prior to the meeting, and there is actually no parking here, right by the sign, but we did discuss possibly adding a couple bollards to further protect the sign, if that makes sense.
It does. Again, you turn into there, if somebody's in a hurry, drop their children off, they
Right.
make a mistake, they could end up taking the sign out.
Right, so the thought is probably to add some small bollards just to try to protect the sign.
Would that be an exception? They need an exception for that?
No, they would not.
Well, go on.
Do we need to do anything further than with the 5-foot setback? Is there something?
Yeah, I mean, it's being granted without anything really being filed approving that is my concern, you know what I mean? If it's like, hey, yeah, all this, that'd be fine, subject to, that additional relief being applied for, just to follow what would be necessary, not to say that not gonna be approved or anything like that, it's just that is what it, what it is, and, that's the way I look at it.
So they should basically put some type of paperwork in place that basically either acknowledges the 5-foot setback.
And is that like the best, you know what I mean? It can't be moved somewhere else or what?
So there are essentially 3 locations where I think it might fit on the south side near the vehicular ingress point, where the applicants have shown it, potentially in the hatched area, which you can see on the site plan there. I'm not exactly sure what that's for, whether they like temporarily park buses there or whatever. It's clearly not a parking space, so I don't know whether it's a potential location for the sign. And then basically, just off the photo here at the really south edge of the property, there's a line of parking, and then there's about 5 feet or so between that property and the southern property line. And if it was relocated there, they would not, in theory, need to get relief from the 5-foot setback, because that setback only applies to the public right-of-way. And not...
Okay, so there's a way. Mr. Grover, you have anything to?
I think I understand your concern is that it's not in the document you have.
Correct.
I think you could add that to a motion if it's a concern of the board, with the condition that, subject to the district receiving the necessary administrative approval of the planning agency, which would be Mr. Knight, that it would, basically our i's would be dotted and our t's would be crossed. Because you've already discussed it publicly, you've already laid out what the issue is. If the board is satisfied that this is with that condition, that's subject to, through administrative approval, he would basically be carrying out what has already been discussed, if Mr. Knight is acceptable with that.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
all that's left now is to...
Well, I had a question.
yeah.
The picture that you showed, is that still A on our picture? Because that doesn't look like that's the same. as-
No, you guys, I don't know that I got the updated maps into the packet for you guys, but I did want to make...
Sign is on this side?
Yeah, it's at the other end of the
It's at
property.
the other end, yeah. That's what it looked like.
So the one you have shows it up
Because
here.
when he was
Yeah.
asking if cars
Yeah,
would
that
jump
was-
it, if it's up here, it wouldn't.
That was the original request that got denied,
Yeah.
so we moved it to here.
They're right here. So that's the exact location it's gonna be in then?
That's the
Yes,
plan.
And this shows it here.
Okay. Because that's kind of far from the entrance of the school, isn't it? Or isn't the entrance down here?
I'm looking at the curve,
This is the entrance right here.
right there. He's on that curve.
The entrance right there goes on, and then the exit's on the other side.
Yeah, that's the driving entrance. Where's the front of the, where's the entrance to the school?
Just the front of the school.
Yeah, to the building, that's down, okay.
Is that like in the middle?
There are 2 entrances to the school. There's the one you can see there, and then at the far southern end, beneath like a building projection, there's another entrance.
Because I'm just worried, because that's going past the school. So you're gonna put a message up,
After you've gone past the school.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, it's a tree that's standing there too, that,
Yeah,
with that
actually,
tree.
this really is the main entrance to the school, right here.
That's the main
And the parking spaces are slanted that way, so this really is the best way to get into school. This is
Okay.
exactly where it's coming right now.
because Because I thought they always entered from where the light was at. They changed that?
Yeah, that's the egress point there. That's
Okay.
Question I have, the tree standing there, would that not block some of the image of that sign? I'm just thinking Sixth Street, I drive down there. Is it in front or behind? You know, if you see the sign before the tree, great, but you're going both ways.
Yeah,
So that's,
We did look at that, and we felt that the number one place is going north, right? North would be where we would want a majority of people seeing this. You
Okay.
can see it by going south. We may trim back the tree a little bit, but you can see the sign in both ways.
okay.
All right, that would be in school's interest, right? Trim it back, make sure it's even more visible, just in case, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Mike, are you gonna have to help me with them?
Yes, I would give it a shot, and I would ask then the city solicitor to fix it too from, all right, so this is for application 2577, that make a motion to approve application 2577, subject to the conditions stated in the resolution of the planning commission, and specifically with regard to number 2, subject to the administrative approval of the planning director. Is that fine? Yeah.
Yes.
So is that the motion, Mr. Phipps?
Yes,
Does
it
that
is.
sound good? Okay.
Okay, so a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Hobbs, second. It's been moved properly second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
With that,
gentlemen,
we're all
for
set.
coming up.
Thank you.
Okay. Tell Lori I didn't give you a hard time. Okay, pretty tough. Okay, well, I think that concludes
Before the
all of our
bo-
business for tonight.
Before the board adjourns, I wanted to raise one issue after the applicants are done. I wanted to revisit a question from the last hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Harrisburg School District appreciates your support.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks so much.
I was not here, but on February 26th, I believe, was the last zoning board hearing.
I mean, I won't
well.
anticipate your question.
Right.
So,
Go ahead.
my first question is, have the written determinations been issued yet?
No, the approvals have, the denial, that one,
Has the one for-
2572, is it? 2572, is that the middle one? That has not been.
Okay.
The first and the third now have been, but not that one yet.
And the 45 days is not yet run.
Correct, it is day 28.
So from the city's perspective, I would make a motion sitting here to return 2572 to this board's next agenda for additional discussion. The city has significant concerns on two aspects of that determination, but I wasn't here and I don't have the transcript. So one is that more significant relief for the exact same property had been granted in terms of number of parking spaces on their prior application. And two is at least the statement, and I haven't seen the transcript that was quoted, was Mr. Chairman saying that the board would like 100% compliance with this section of the zoning code. Again, I don't have the transcript. That is a policy decision as opposed to a determination of whether the applicant met their burden of proof in a special exception. The city underwrites the cost of a challenge. And so we've requested the transcript. We don't have it yet. So we have done one prior reconsideration in my tenure here that I'm aware of. And this seems to be a point where it may be worth reconsidering based on a more complete submission, and the city would ask to put on its own evidence at that point of our concerns.
Let me ask you, Attorney Grove, too, that other one, when was that? Relatively, I mean, not long ago, was it?
I
A couple,
believe it was late 2021, I want to say.
I think I kind of remember.
Yeah, can't remember the details of it, I just know we did.
Yes, and that's,
I can remember it. That was off of
I
a.
think we
on
remember.
Green Street,
Right.
that we had our. Question, let me ask a question, Neil, because yes, I did say 100% compliance, but my issue was that I think they were counting on the fact that they got an agreement in 2021, and they didn't finish up with the land usage plan in time. So, and I'm asking you as an attorney, does that negate everything that happened before?
Yeah, to me, these are separate issues, right? I mean, I don't know the details of their prior agreements or their prior transcript or the prior ruling. I just know in terms of the relief granted, it looks on its face to be more significant relief was granted on the same applicant for the same square block or the same request for reduced parking. I will not say what a judge will conclude if I end up in a courtroom.
right.
On
And
the
I think the
question-
one thing was too, that the prior one had the parking lot under,
That's correct. I believe they were intending on providing something along the lines of 82 spaces in a
Something like
subterranean
that.
parking facility
right.
versus
Was
about
anybody-
160 spaces.
Because Attorney Grover, myself were here. Was anybody else here? Any objectors, anybody like that?
I believe there were separate zoning hearing board members at that time.
I mean, for the last, last month.
Oh,
You said were there what?
Like any objectors or neighbors or somebody like that? Wasn't there one woman?
Yes, spoke.
yeah, three people from the public spoke at that meeting. One individual.
But there was one who was actually a party to it as well.
Well, one individual lived about 4 blocks away, and did indicate that she wanted to be a party to the case. The other 2 individuals who spoke chose not to be parties to the case.
Right.
So the requirements, the way I see it, requirements from 2021 were different than the case that was put in front of us. Because again, 2021, there was an indication it was going to be some type of subterranean parking.
That may well be.
Okay.
My understanding, again, working on limited information, Ms. Farron's no longer here, is that the relief granted from the number of parking spaces required was greater in 2021 than the request in 2022. Forgetting wherever that parking was, the relief that was denied was a lesser relief than the relief that was granted 3 years before. That's the concern, that why would lesser, and there may be a very good rational explanation for that, but on that pure question, and then the other question is this, again, I assume out of context quotation that showed up in the general press, which is more of a planning commission quotation than a zoning board judge quotation, because compliance isn't what the board does. They do what happened at this hearing.
Right.
Did you meet your burden or didn't you? And it's fine to the board to say you didn't meet your burden. That is completely your purview. But we're just trying to, in light of what is almost inevitable litigation over what seems to be a correctable record, for whatever this board's decision is, I'd frankly like a more complete record and the opportunity to make sure we put it on.
Do we have a
Hold on. So the city would submit additional evidence and basically in support of applicant, whatever their position is, because it was just that one, right, it was
Right.
the one. Everything else was approved.
Yeah, the planning agency's recommendation was approval. The city, as a matter of law, is considered to have party status in a zoning hearing. So as someone with party status, where the recommendation was approval, we're asking basically to reconsider the determination, reopen the hearing, and bring the parties back, and including the ones who indicated that they had objections or were in favor for it, or anyone else that wants to show up. But basically have an opportunity to clarify the record on what this is.
Let me just take a minute.
Well, she has party status either way. The question for notice is she gets notice as other people get notice. Now, the reconsideration gets a little tricky because of other notice requirements in the municipal planning code.
I think I'm hearing out of Neil is that can we do reconsideration?
Well, that's why I'm making it tonight as a motion to reopen the files before you get to a final determination. You had more time under the zoning code to have a final hearing. That time was not used up from the time of the application.
I'm open to that. Jeff, do we have access to what took place in 2021, that documentation?
That's not the application.
No, but again,
Especially now, that's not,
right, but that was some
it's
like
not, and you're not gonna be looking at that
in front of you.
before.
If the board,
You would be considering that at a hearing, not,
Okay.
and if the board was looking,
submitted at a hearing.
and if the board is looking for like a side-by-side comparison of the two projects, like we could definitely do that in terms of number of units, required parking, locational parking, stuff like that. We could provide that at the meeting.
So I have a question. Is there any bearing, right, when something comes in as a new application, as in that case did, is there any connectivity that we're supposed to have in terms of how we come to decisions or anything of that nature?
So again, not having been there, I don't know what the questions were. I don't know what the reference, if any, was to the prior application.
Well, I'm just asking in general, like in this, without, in the specific details, anything that's related to, we had this case come to us for whatever reason, in this case, because they didn't meet their requirements by a certain time. They came back in front of us with a little bit different project parameters. But I'm just wondering in general, is there anything saying that we have to, or that we should coincide with any decisions that were made before us on that previous application?
So I would say that kind of advice comes from the solicitor, the board. I would say any board that is judicial it's based on the evidence in front of them at the time and the matter at the time. If that evidence is raised, the question is it relevant to that particular application? If it's relevant, that's the discussion to have. Is it relevant evidence? Is it not relevant evidence? So, but I don't know if that got there. Frankly, that's what the city wants to make a motion to reopen the case before you get to a final determination and see what there is to put on in terms of the record, if any. And it has to be relevant to what you did. If it's not relevant, I will provide what we think is a fair assessment from the city's perspective. But right now, the way the motions have been made, as I understand it, it basically kills the project on its face because there's no another 30 spaces to find where they are. And you can't compel a competing or other property they don't own that's not in front of you to do something, to add something to a restriction to the lands or anything. So all you can do is deal with the application in front of you. That's what you can do. And I'm not asking the board to reverse its decision. I'm asking it to reopen the matter for additional potential evidence and argument because of the city, and I will let you know this is where at least part of the discussion internally in the city is. The city's had a series of very large projects that were approved. The ones with private money, one after the other, have not put shovel in the ground. And that has a lot to do with economics, and interest rates. We are looking at an ordinance to extend plans and permits like they did in 2008 because every board at that point approved them all. Everyone thought it was a good idea, but the economics when the plans were put together were different when it came time when they got the approvals. And so we're exploring that simply to keep all of those things moving in some way instead of every project in the city starting over because of interest rates. Whether we get there, that's up to the elected officials at the end of the day. But that is at least a topic we're exploring, as a solution to sort of the stagnation. It is publicly funded projects for construction that seem to be moving. Privately funded ones are sitting still.
We considered that.
Yeah, blame Neil for that. Easy night. Neil, is she just not here tonight, Emily?
Emily is no longer with us.
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, for the quick pause. And I'm going to turn, I think what I've heard is that,
Well, ask for a motion. Why don't you
Need a
ask for a
motion?
motion?
yes, I need a motion.
A motion, that's
just a
it.
motion.
Yep.
Just a motion.
Yep. Mr. Hobbs?
So I'll make a motion to not reconsider that particular case.
Okay, which is 2573,
Case,
7-2, I believe.
case
72?
2572.
Okay,
Need a second? A second by,
second, Ms. Gray.
okay. Questions?
Any discussion by the board here? Any discussion amongst you?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that even though what decision that was made in the previous case, I believe from 2021, for that particular project, that details of the parking relief from that was discussed at the last hearing, I think based off of what the applicants were sharing with us during their testimony. But for the decision that we were making was strictly based off of the application that was in front of us, which was for a different project overall, because there were multiple parameters that were changed, from that application in 2021.
Okay, different parking and things.
Yes, there was,
Right.
the parking setup was, the parking that they were requested as part of their application, that setup was different from what was in this application, or from the previous application was different in this new application.
Okay, understood. All right, Mr. Chairman, there's a motion and a second.
Okay, is there questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
with that, then we can adjourn.
Yes, and I see you guys in April. Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending.
All right.
Thank you. And Ms. Grove, I need to bother you for 1 second.